What's up guys, Causeway Giant here, and the moment we've all been waiting for is finally here. Well, at least one of the moments we've all been waiting for. I mean, there is so many big movies coming out this year. Ooh, it's such a good time to be a nerd. But despite the fact that there were loads of other blockbusters this year, and loads of Marvel films at that, there was one film that meant something more than just making a lot of money, punching people really hard in the face, and showing DC how bad their films are, and that was Logan. See, as I'm sure most of you know, Logan is going to be Hugh Jackman's last role as the Wolverine, or so he says, which may not seem like much, but when you consider the fact that he has been in 8 X-Men films so far, including Logan, meaning that he's played the same character for a crazy 17 years with no one getting bored or wanting a recast, is insane. Picking Hugh Jackman as Wolverine is by far my favourite casting choice in any superhero movie, and I'm sure that a lot of people will feel the same way. So the fact that he's finally leaving the character in this film marks the end of an era, and regardless of the fact whether you like superheroes or not, or if you're just a big DC mega fanboy, you've got to have massive respect for Hugh Jackman for being Wolverine for so long. So this is why, for me, Logan was top of the hype factor for this year's movies. Well, I mean, except for Star Wars. Like, Wolverine, I'm sorry, but Star Wars. So without further ado, let's talk about Logan and see if after all the sappy nostalgia that people like me felt for the film actually resulted in it being any good. Spoilers. It did. Speaking of spoilers, as usual, this is going to be a spoiler-filled review, so if you haven't seen Logan, then take your Batman costume off and stop defending Man of Steel in YouTube comment section for 2 minutes. Well, actually 2 hours 21 minutes to be exact. I mean, it might have been longer if there was an end credit scene, and go watch the film. In cinemas, kids, not on some weird Chinese streaming site. Okay, let's crack on with the review. So first things first, I've got to talk about Hugh Jackman's performance in his signature role. Despite the fact that he's been in so many great X-Men films and has consistently given great performances in all of the movies he's in, yes, even Origins, I really do think that this is his best performance. He's old and weary, and his healing doesn't heal all of his wounds anymore. Heck, sometimes he even has to pull his claws out of his hand. Ooh, well, I'm sure a bit of oil and they'll be fine, Wolfie. But what he really conveys in this film is that this is also what he feels like mentally. He really just doesn't care about anything anymore, and he has to resort to backstreet drug deals to get medicine for Charles. He's drowning in alcoholism, he's depressed, like this guy's in a really terrible state. I mean, he keeps the adamantium bullet from Origins in his pocket so that he has the option to shoot himself with it if he wants to end it all. Aha! I knew that there was some reason that Origins exists. Like, pretty much anyone that he's ever loved ever is taken away from him eventually, so he is alone with only Charles and his carer Caliban as company, and this is a kind of running theme through the film. Like in the second act, Charles suggests that they go and help this family called the Marsons, who are trying to calm down their horses after they escape on a motorway. Logan is set on continuing with their journey, as I'm sure he probably knew that the enemy weren't far behind him, but Charles insists that they help them. After Logan and the Marsons get the horses under control and the truck back on the road, the Marsons invite them over for dinner, to which Logan refuses, but Charles says, "We'd love to," which I thought was pretty funny. It helped to establish their two contrasting characters, which I thought was nice. So they have dinner with them, Logan helps the father out on the farm, and then when he comes back, an almost identical Wolverine clone called X-24, who is also played by Hugh Jackman, wow, that's one way to cut costs, have your main actor play both the hero and the villain, has absolutely slaughtered the entire family. And when I say slaughter, I don't just mean punching them in the face over and over like you normally get with superhero movies. I'm talking about full-on gore. This poor innocent family that the film has actually taken time to dwell on just being horrifically stabbed in the face with no mercy. Like, man, the violence in this movie is ridiculous. It makes Deadpool look like a kid's movie in comparison. But honestly, I know it makes me kind of sound like a serial killer, but this is what I've been hoping for the whole way through the X-Men films. I mean, in the comics you get to see Wolverine doing that kind of thing, but the PG-13 ratings have always limited Wolverine's claw action to be family friendly in a world where hardly anyone seems to actually shed blood when they're stabbed. But finally, we comic book nerds have the Wolverine killing spree we've all wanted. Like the final action sequence where a tracking shot shows him sprinting through the woods, impaling people like he's making a kebab on his way, leaping onto people, blood showering everywhere. Oh, it was beautiful. And the two confrontations between X-24 and Wolverine are just brutal. Like, there's no elegant precision in these fights, just repeated stabbing, and I loved it. I really thought that the intense gory action scenes really added to the dark tone of the film, and I'm just glad we finally got to see Wolverine being Wolverine on the big screen in Hugh Jackman's final portrayal of the character. He really is the perfect choice for Wolverine. Like, you can really see him getting stuck into those brutal action scenes. I mean, just watch this video. wow, it's like the most aggressive treadmill session ever. But guys, Wolverine and Wolverine's 2 fight scenes are completely outshadowed by Daphne Keene's character of Laura, better known to us nerds as X-23. And just a side note, Logan was one of the very few movies that I have completely stayed away from the marketing for because I wanted no spoilers of any kind for it, as you never really get movies that you have nothing but your own pure speculation going into it. So I had no idea that X-23 was going to be in this film, and I think that really added to my experience with her character. See, I always thought that X-23 was a really cool character in the comics with her 2 claws and then 1 in the feet. I thought that was an awesome design, so I'd hoped for a while that they would eventually do X-23 in the films, but I never thought they would because she's a pretty obscure character. But in that scene in Logan when she's just sitting alone in that building with all the soldiers surrounding her, and it goes to an outside view of the facility and then you just hear them all screaming, with her eventually emerging with one of their heads, I was like, damn, this girl is scary. I wonder what her power is. Oh wait, does she have claws? Oh my god, that's X-23! Ah! Though I didn't scream like that in the cinema because I probably would have got thrown out, but I was doing a lot of inner screaming, if that's a thing. Then she starts slicing and dicing all of the soldiers with her claws, leaping around like she's the prequel version of Yoda. Like, man, it was terrifying. Her movements and screaming were like something out of The Conjuring, and oh my gosh, she was brutal. Then she kicks that guy in the face and you see that she's extended her foot claw, and I'm just sitting there like, wow, Wolverine, get on her level. Oh, I'm just so glad that they finally brought X-23 into the X-Men movie universe, and I'm especially glad that they did it in this film with all of the horrific action sequences. Like, honestly, I never thought I would be creeped out by a kid in an X-Men film, but some of those fight scenes are genuinely difficult to watch. And I thought that the relationship between Logan and Laura developed really well throughout the film as well. I liked how initially he was hesitant about taking her with him because, as I said before, literally everyone he interacts with, even for a short while, is eventually killed in a horrible way. So you can't blame the guy for wanting to leave her behind, along with the fact that she is absolutely terrifying. But he takes her under his wing as the film progresses, and there are some really funny moments, like when she breaks into a shop and is about to kill the owner, and Logan bursts in and grabs her off and was like, no, that's bad, you can't just kill innocent people, and then drags her out after he steals a phone charger. Like, it's moments like that when you can really see that though he's lost everyone, he still does care for people, even if he doesn't want to show it. And in the final action sequence when Logan goes back to help Laura's meeting friends, the double team takedowns that the two of them do makes you think you're watching Mortal Kombat or something. Like, man, they are such an epic duo. And oh, at the end when he finally dies after being impaled by a tree and she's like, Daddy, don't leave me, and he goes, so this is what it feels like. Oh, it was really emotional. Like, he's never had a family before because he never wants to get close enough to people to have a family in fear that they'd be taken away from him. But it was so great for his character to have this closure that at his death he finally has a daughter. And oh man, that final shot where Laura turns the cross on its side making an X-Men symbol, damn, yeah, tears may or may not have been shed there. Damn it, Logan, why are you so hard on the feels? But in all seriousness, I've got to say that the relationship between the two of them was great character development for both of them, and Daphne Keene gave a great performance for a child actor, and they left it open for her to take on the reins of the Wolverine like she did in the comics. And I would personally love to see her reprise her role as Laura when she is older for some more R-rated bloody action scenes. Man, I really do have a mad obsession for seeing people get ripped to shreds by clawed maniacs. But Hugh Jackman and Daphne Keene weren't the only people to give great performances in the film. It was great to see Patrick Stewart back as a very old Charles Xavier, and you can really see the parallels between him and Logan as he's lost everyone as well. So he has these brain seizures that emit this weird energy that paralyzes people, and he needs this medicine from his carer Caliban every hour to stop them from happening. These seizures happen a couple of times in the film, and it's said on a news report after one happens in a hotel that a similar event occurred in the X-Mansion. I'm sorry, Marvel, I get you like puns, but really? And I thought Darth Vader was bad.
Be careful not to choke on your aspirations, Director.
And wiped out all of the X-Men, hinting that Charles was the cause of this, hence why Logan is angry at him, and then Charles says a great line to Logan, "You're just waiting for me to die." See, lines like that wouldn't have made it into an X-Men film before, but this dark tone really does fit Wolverine's character, and it shows these so-called superheroes to be less super and have a bit of a grey area of good and bad in them. This is one of the main reasons why this film worked, similarly to why Rogue One worked for me also, is because this darkness is far more realistic, and I'm really glad that Hollywood is halting its mass money remaking conveyor belt blockbuster formula substantially and making more realistic, darker films that focus more on character development than quips and giant skybeam finales. Yes, I'm looking at you, Suicide Squad. And I really hope they keep it up in films like Infinity War and Alien Covenant, which I am also really hyped for, obviously. Also, a very subtle thing, but the two are hardly ever referred to as Professor X or Wolverine, but instead just Charles and Logan. It's a small thing, but it does help to make this film feel more realistic, with the two being less like superheroes and more like two suffering men struggling in the final stages of their life. And another blow directly to the feels happens when Charles is killed. Yes, this is what I mean, literally anyone Logan gets close to is killed. But his death isn't one of those really over-the-top, avenge me kind of deaths. He's talking to who he thinks is Logan about how staying with the Marsons has been one of the best nights of his life. And you think that this film is finally starting to look at, but it turns out that he's actually talking to Wolverine's clone X-24, who then crawls on top of him and stabs him right through his chest. Just out of the blue, he dies, but again, it makes it feel so much more real because it just happens with no remorse and is so unexpected, which I think reflects murder in the real world far better than most other superhero movies. And then shortly after, Logan arrives and is like, "It wasn't me, Charles, it wasn't me." And you're just sitting there like, "No, Charles, don't die thinking it was Logan, ah." And then they bury him and Logan tries to recite a few words, but you can see that he really is uncomfortable and Laura just grabs his hand, and boy does this movie mess with your emotions. So yeah, another great performance from Patrick Stewart, though to be honest you could say that about the entire movie. Overall guys, for me Logan is more than just another superhero film. The dark tone along with the brutal action scenes makes this film feel fresh, yet also a look into what life would really be like for the characters in the film in the real world. The character development in this film is great, and I love how Charles and Logan are shown to be very different characters, yet that the two still do need each other because they're all that they have left. It has some of the best action that I have ever seen in any film, and X-24 is a truly animal-like beast of a character, virtually indestructible and lacking any humanity. Again, kind of different from the quippy and intimidating villains we've come to expect from the superhero genre. It was a great send-off for Hugh Jackman's final performance as Wolverine, yet also a great setup for Daphne Keane taking up the reins of Wolverine in her character of X-23. I know I joked about the lack of an end credits scene, though I am really glad that they left out the teaser for Deadpool 2 at the end because it would have just messed up the tone. And the fact that it's not there makes you leave the cinema feeling like you've just had your heart ripped out of your chest and run through a blender. So for that reason, I'm going to give Logan a 9.7 out of 10. Wow, a week after seeing that film and my feels are still recovering. Be sure to let me know what you guys thought of the film and if you're still functioning after it. There are so many epic looking films coming out this year, which means loads of reviews are on their way. But in the meantime, remember, if you like them, please hit that subscribe button and I'll see you later. Bye!